Welcome to Shine, Delusion, Shine, the radical art of dreaming beyond boundaries. I am Vicki Todd, and together with Dr. Pat, we will learn to push the boundaries of our minds, to think delusionally, and create fertile ground for our big dreams to seed, grow, and manifest. Each episode, we will gain more ability to think delusionally and cultivate beyond boundaries faith that we can accomplish dreams which seem unreachable. Shine, Delusion, Shine is a springboard to believing, dreaming, and thinking beyond the ordinary, and a catalyst to living a more fulfilling, destiny-driven life. You are born with dreams, gifts, and talents you are meant to use to make this world brighter. Let your delusional dreams shine. It all starts now.
I'm Dr. Pat, and I am telling you, I'm so excited about this show with Vicki. You cannot believe it. Today, this is so important. This episode, Vicki, is so important because my understanding, we're in a 9-year. 9-year is the end of a cycle.
Okay.
Next year is a 1-year. That is where you bust out, right? So what I've been told is this is the year to shed.
Okay.
Right? And so this episode is shed your old skin, but it's more than that. It's like shed your old skin, but also complete things, right? Yes. So that process can happen. So today, shed your old skin, you picked this episode. I got to ask you, tell me what got fired up in you to pick this one.
Well, I had a visitor this summer. So I live in Santa Fe and I live in a condo, and out this window, it's sliding glass doors onto this small patio. And so Santa Fe, of course, we have adobe walls, and they're about 5 feet high, and there's a small square hole at the bottom to drain things. And I've seen lizards pop in, insects, birds. I was walking through my condo and happened to look out one day. There was a 4-foot snake out there. And usually I would be freaked out, but it was so beautiful. And I think partly I was really mesmerized by it because, I'm using animal symbols for my ancestors in my visual memoir that I'm writing, or visual memoir, in my memoir, ancestral memoir that I'm writing. And snake is the symbol for my mom. And part of me was like, Mom, is that you? Are you sending me a message? And so I didn't know what kind of snake it was. And so I grabbed my cell phone, ran out the front door because she was leaving out that little hole. And she kind of slithered out one way and, folded it in on herself and went the other way. And there was no rattle on the tail. So I was like, okay, check. It's not a rattlesnake. And I looked it up. I think it's a gopher snake, which is similar to a bull snake. But she was so thin and literally 4 feet and just so beautiful with this divine feminine energy flowing through. It was absolutely mesmerizing. And so I love when nature gives us, these little, taps on the shoulder, and what can we learn from it? So I'm like, okay, snake, they shed their skin. And what does that mean?
Well, I love it too, because I wouldn't have imagined that somebody like me from the Bronx would have an experience in the desert and be introduced to so many things. And I love the way you represent this. And I love that experience because, there's a tell about when a totem shows up. For example, I started to get visited by ravens out here. So now I'm giving them a little oatmeal. But the snake showed up and was part of my life challenge in the Vision Quest. Now, how do you know it's your totem? Well, when they leave you a little mess, when they leave you like a little, they leave you like a little thing, and that's a peace offering. But let's talk about it from life and where you're coming from and what this means, not for you, but what this means for what the message is today that you're bringing forward.
Right. I love that you have a piece of that snake skin. I would love to have
the little baby.
Yeah. I hope my visitor comes back and leaves me one. But literally, a snake has to shed its skin because its insides are literally outgrowing the outsides.
Yeah.
And so it's itchy. If you imagine, your skin coming off just piece by piece and how itchy and uncomfortable that would be. But literally, if they don't shed their skin, they become malnourished, they could become blind, and they could literally die. And so I know that sounds extremely dramatic, but when we choose not to follow our big delusional dreams, we can start feeling like our soul is going to shrivel within us and die. And that is exactly how I felt when I knew that I needed to quit my tenured professor job and, say, adios, people, I got to go. I have no idea where I'm going, but, to follow my art path. And I know that sounds really dramatic, but I literally felt my soul will shrivel and die if I stay here. And, if I think, okay, if I stayed, what would that feel like? I would shrink, just like the snake not being able to do
Yeah.
anything. I would regret, I would become angry, and you don't want that. And
No.
so, I always go back to that Joseph Campbell Hero's Journey quote. The
Yeah.
pain of not shedding the skin, the pain of not following your dream becomes much worse than the fear of taking the leap.
Yeah. One of the things I grew up with one of my coaches, I think paraphrasing that was the pain of staying the same. See, he would say to me, Pat, when you're going to change?
Mm.
This is a longer story for another show, but he would say to me, and I was young, when you're going to change? And I'm like, and I was just like looking at him like, I'm never going to change. Don't bother me. And what he went on to say is, here's when you're going to change. You're going to change when the pain of
Yeah.
staying the same is greater than the pain of changing.
Absolutely. And so if you imagine that you're that snake and you've outgrown your skin and it's not
Ooh.
quite off yet, and you're just rubbing against rocks or a fence post to try to get it off, that would be miserable. But that is how you feel. That's how I felt, and I'm sure you did too, when you come to that fork in the road. Am I going to follow my dream or am I not? And another thing with the shedding of skin, because I looked up snake characteristics.
Yes,
And
yes.
so, one thing I learned, which I didn't know this, they never blink. They have a transparent scale over their eyes, but when they shed their skin, that scale becomes milky or, a bluish color. And so that reminded me of, when you have these fork in the road moments, sure, you can call 49 friends, family members, and say, hey, what do you think I should do? But really, you need to shut that off and go within. And so, kind of like that snake having their eye scale misted over, you have to go within to your higher power and say, what's the direction I should take?
Yeah, and that's part of what we're talking about today too, because when we're approaching schedule skin, and one of the things I was saying to you before the show was that this is a 9 year, and my friends are telling me all about this being a 9 year and what it means. And so after I had these long traumatic conversation with a couple of our hosts, I'm like, okay, girlfriend, you're right. I'm gonna get these 15 things done. A large part of them is this month, September. But
Okay.
also, I love working with Singh, one of our coaches, and I just love studying some of these other rituals in other countries. For example, we're in the middle of enormous festival week in the Hindu traditions.
Okay.
And we're coming up on the 20th and 29th about the celebration of goddess. So I find it interesting. We're talking about these things that are so magical,
Yeah.
mystical, but necessary. And at some level, the ancients used to see this as highly spiritual.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And when I was doing my research on this, I looked up the Kundalini awakening, and that it is represented by a dormant snake at the base of your spine. And so, kind of around your root chakra, right? And so, if you are awakening like you're supposed to your gifts, your delusional dreams, then that snake is going to start slithering up your spine and click on every
Mm.
chakra. And I can just visualize this snake, turning on, your solar plexus, your personal power, your heart chakra, your voice within your throat, your third eye. But also, I see that as your gifts. You're turning on your gifts when you say yes to, I'm going to follow this path. I'm going to
Yeah,
shed this old skin. That could
yeah.
mean doubts, limited thinking. It could mean negative relationships that are holding you back. It could mean a job, like both of you and I had a job that we had to shed in order to get to
Mhm.
where we needed to be. And so I think that's a beautiful visual, but the reverse of that, if you don't say yes to this journey, that snake stays sleeping at the base of your spine and never moves.
Yeah.
How depressing is that?
Well, it is. Now, let
Yeah.
me ask you about the artwork you have behind you. Let's talk about it for a minute because I looked at the artwork and I asked you about it. But now that I'm looking at it sitting back, that is a profile of a back,
Yeah,
but it now seems like what's around it is a skin. But I
it
didn't
is.
put that together.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let me explain. This
Yeah.
is a body print, meaning, and I actually did this in 2018 in the desert, naked in New Mexico. Yay. And so I was with a friend and she helped me put a whole bunch of paint on my back. And I literally, this is I think a 30-inch by 20-inch watercolor sheet. And I laid down on it and made just the print of my body. And
Mm,
then when I got it home, I thought, what does this say to me? And so I thought, this kind of looks like a snake trying to wriggle out of her skin. And so I painted, kind of the sloughing off at the bottom of her behind, sloughing off that skin, and it kind of twirls around her snake tail.
I love
So
it.
instead of scales, I made each little scale on the tail a flower because I truly believe I have experienced this in my own life. Nothing is ever wasted. And so each little lesson that you learn, each painful thing, each thing you think, well, oh, that didn't work, and so who cares? No, it has made an imprint on you. It's like
Yeah.
every scale on that snake skin, when you shed it, you
Hmm.
still have part of that with you and you can carry it forward. I also gave her a phoenix tattoo.
I saw that.
Yes. So by shedding that old skin, she's rising like a phoenix from the
Yeah.
ashes.
Here's what I love about this. If we can like keep going with this, because this is about transmutation. Really cool. This 9 year, depending upon who the people are that call me and talk to me about it and just say, you better do this, Pat. Okay, that's the way they do that. One of the things that became really clear from my advisors, the coaches, let's call them that, is that it's seriously important in order for you to activate, expand, grow, and design and develop and implement your dream.
Ooh. So, okay, let me repeat that so I can get it in. So you have to shed, you have to say yes to that, no matter how painful it is, to do all those wonderful verbs that you just said to
That's
activate,
correct. That's
transform.
correct. And
Wow.
the one person came to me in your words too, what you're talked about in the show is, there are certain things that you learn about. Now, me, I had a up close personal experience for 3 days at my Vision Quest with Snake.
Mm,
But what you also do learn is what it's like to shed it. So, here, you ready?
yeah,
So, here we are, right? And getting all this insight. Then, out of nowhere, I get the C.
you get the
I
what?
get the COVID,
Oh, oh,
right? Out
yes,
of nowhere.
yes.
And I thought about that. And so, what was the skin that I had to shed?
Ooh,
It was disappointing my clients.
mm,
It was now coming back and Linda calling people like I had to rearrange my calendar. I've had to cancel meetings and it's just not like me.
mm,
And one of the clients, one of our hosts I'm working with, we're doing website work. Linda said to me, I have called her 4 times to change this. And I said, Lynn, I may be available to work with her, but I don't want to talk for an hour before my show with Vicki. That
yeah,
was so hard for me, Vicki. It was like, it was, so that is a lesson now.
yes. Well, let me stop, drop, and roll and say thank you. I am glad that you're here with me today.
Yeah. But you see what that lesson is? I mean, you don't think that you're going to get these lessons,
Mm,
right? But
yeah.
let me tell you the flip side of it.
Mm,
Because I'm not able to be on long talking calls, the time now to finish TTR3, to work with our clients, we created a founders option
mm,
for our current clients. We sent emails out to all y'all and said, we got a special offer for you because we don't want you to yell at us if we don't ask you if you don't want to sponsor the founders corner and have your name as this founder for the channel.
right.
And I don't think any of that would have come forward if I didn't have to stop. What do you think?
Well, maybe not. I don't believe that anything happens by accident. I really don't believe in coincidence. And so I think that anything, even if it's painful, you can say, okay, step back. The universe is telling me to slow down right now. What can I take from this? But that also reminds me, I always like to look at the reverse. I've mentioned when I have big decisions in my life, I always say, if I don't do it, will I regret it? And so looking at the flip side. And so I have heard that the richest place, the richest plot of land anywhere in the world are cemeteries. And you think, well, why would that be the richest place? But that is a place where dreams go to die with people who are buried because they didn't follow their delusional dreams. Another way I've heard that is, what if you pass and you go up to heaven or whatever, your place is going to be, and there are boxes and boxes and boxes in this warehouse with your name on them, and they are filled with gifts, talents, favor, things that you could have done, but you never said, yeah, I want to do that. I don't want that to be me. I mentioned in my one woman show, and now it's in the book that I'm writing. I don't want to come to my last day on earth, stand before God, and he says, well, Vicki, what did you do with the gifts that I gave you? And I say, oh, nothing. I was too scared. I don't want that to be my answer.
No kidding. See, that's what I'm saying about this. Okay, it seems like a silly lesson that I mentioned, but it's not.
Mm-mm.
Because if I am in this space where I'm afraid
Mm.
of hurting a feeling, and, I'm not doing anything frivolous here, but that was a skin that needs to be shed. And I want to talk to you about this because one of the things that you're talking about today, too, is how to transmute that poison.
Yes.
So let's talk about that because there are some snakes that I did find out later. If you kind of don't make the peace with them or you don't understanding, they're going to give you a little bite, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, to me, it sounds really rude. Um, my brother had told me this before, but I researched it and it's true. Poisonous snakes, like a rattlesnake, they actually have a heat sensor on top of their head. And so they seek out victims, like a heat-seeking missile that they can go bite and put their venom in. Like my little gopher snake that came to visit me, she may not be poisonous, but maybe she's afraid and, would strike out and try to bite me. That's like people in our lives. And so sometimes my mother was like that heat-seeking missile that would bite with her poison on purpose. But I think that also kind of was drawn from her fear of, I'm going out too much outside of the traditional box that she's used to. What is that going to say about her? And she doesn't know what to do with me. And so that comes from a place of fear. And that's what a lot of people do. Oh, Pat, you can't do that. It's too big of an idea. Step back a little bit. But as I've been writing my book and I'm working with a writing coach slash editor, I'm describing these really tough, moments with my mom where she's coming at me, I'm embarrassed of you, you're going to fail, blah, blah, blah. And the coach kind of took a step back and said, Vicki, a lot of people, a lot of women would have given up. This is medicine
Yeah.
for people. This is medicine to help others. What made you keep going? And I had to stop and think about it and think, well, how did I shed that skin to say, no, I'm not going to listen to you. I love you. You're hurting me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to listen to you. And maybe I'm just stubborn, but any poison like that comes at me, yes, it may hurt at the time. Yes, I may spend a couple of days in tears, but I have found that negative resistance that I'm going up against, it has made me pray bolder, listen
Yeah.
deeper, believe stronger to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And you cannot do that by staying in the old skin.
And you know what I love about what you're talking about is you and I have so many similarities in so many ways. It was my dad that really thumbed and dumbed down. I didn't have such an effect on me, but my stepsister Joyce really, it ruined her life.
Mm,
My dad's consistent, and he did it because she was drop dead gorgeous, if I may say,
yeah.
even as a young person. But he would constantly remind her how she wasn't. Now, my stepmom was there and would try to shut him up, but my sister Joyce loved my dad, so appreciated he adopted them, right?
Yeah.
Now, the flip side for me is I grew up with a birth mom that was a feisty. She made my dad buy her a store. On her death certificate, they called her like an entrepreneur or something. I didn't even notice it till I saw it the other day when I had to get a passport. They called her like occupation, entrepreneur or something, business something. And I thought, I don't care how young I was, that is where I got it from.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because, as I was writing the chapter, that particular chapter, and it was hard, it's hard to bring up some of those memories. And I started writing, I wonder who I would have been. I wonder if I would have been as strong, willing to shed some of the old skin to allow me to move forward. If my mom had been super loving or coddling, maybe she, if she had been that way, I don't think I'd be the person standing before you today. And so in hindsight, I have to say, thank you, Mom. I love you, for making me who you made me. And so, you
Yeah.
have to just take it and look at the positive.
Well, let's talk about what the outcomes are because for you, that poison, and I am going to call it poison. Now they call it toxic, but the bottom
Yeah.
line, same thing.
Yeah.
But by that learning, you learned how to break out of your skin. So
Yeah.
let's talk about a couple of ways that that shows up in your life now, how you have demonstrated that, whether it be, look, you're here talking about delusional
Yeah.
dream. You're talking about something, a word that people don't use. Look at what you're doing now.
Yeah. Well, two more facts about the snake. She smells by, flicking at her forked tongue. That's how she
Yep.
smells what's around her. And she, quote unquote, hears through vibrations that come through her skin. And I think through having that experience with my mom, it's not that
Yeah.
I've gotten it perfect every time, but I'm still learning. She has taught me to know, oh, that person's a narcissist. I'm an empath. Look out, Vicki.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. But also, just being aware of what's around you, how you can take things in, like this snake, flicking the tongue and the vibrations in her skin. I went to this wonderful art exhibit in here in Santa Fe, a 78-year-old female artist, and she had these huge, just vibrant color, multimedia paintings. And I could have come home and thought, oh, that was really nice. That was a nice afternoon. But it really got down in me. And I don't know how, because this had nothing to do with body prints. I thought doing my body prints that, I did 30 of them for my one woman show back in 2022. I thought that was over. But after seeing this exhibit, feeling that vibration of it, I'm going back to body prints now. And so hopefully in October, you will see a new one hanging behind me on the wall. But you have to be aware of what's around you. And even if it's really quiet, how can you take that in? What gift can I take from that to enhance my own
Yeah.
gifts?
Yeah. And I hope you offer that to the public, to people that are in your area, because for women, it's two things. One, it helps them transmute the poison of self-image confidence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, and they have something to remind themselves. I mean, this would be so beautiful for people to be able to do this with you, not just because it's art, but because it's healing, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's so liberating. Um, I am not the kind of voyeur person, to say I'm gonna take off my clothes and streak down the street, like in
Yeah,
the
me, I'm
1970s.
not, yeah, no, not
But
me either.
somehow, being in the desert in New Mexico next to the Chama River and having mud all over me, and I kind of had to hurry because the sun is so strong, and
Yeah.
I'm feeling sunburned. But putting paint all over me and just lying down and then bringing it home and saying, "What can I make this into?" That was one of the most freeing things I've ever done.
I love it. Look, this is a powerful show, and I know we're going to do more of these as we wrap up this year because this is a powerful message. But beyond this, it's more than a message. You're here to help people. What's your closing message, and how do people find out more about you, Vicki?
Oh, well, I can say from experience, it's been 10 years, a whole decade since I shed the skin of my tenured professor job to, crawl out of it, slither out of it, and do my art. And it's been a journey, it's been hard along the way, but I'm finally to a place where I'm on a rock, sunning myself like a snake and saying, this feels good. I'm sculpting, I'm painting, I'm writing. So you need to shed that old skin, the old job that no longer serves you, the old relationship, limited thoughts. I've seen so many posts on Facebook that science is catching up, that your thoughts do create your reality. So that is a real thing. So shed that old skin, whatever is holding you back, and step out, slither out into the light. We need your gifts.
Yeah, yeah. Vicki, how do we find out more about you? I know you've got your art on your website. I know you've got upcoming things. What's the best place for people to go?
I have my website, vickiworldart.com, and so you can check out everything on there. I also have an email address if you'd like to get in touch with me. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Vicki World Art, Vicki World Art.
Thank you for bringing this topic up today. I don't get to really share this kind of experience that often, but we've learned a lot about the freedom we have to express ourselves, and you do it so beautifully in multiple ways. Thank you so much for everything you do, Vicki.
Thank you. Thanks.
For those of you out there, please take in what we said today. Look at, you know there's something for you to shed. You don't have to shed everything at one time, but you
No.
know there's something, right, Vicki? There's
Yes.
something. Pick that something and start to take movement.
Right.
Shake it off. Make a change. Just
Right.
one thing at a time, one day at a time.
That's right.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Shine, Delusion, Shine, the radical art of dreaming beyond boundaries. I am Vicki Todd with Dr. Pat. Tune in with us each fourth Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio for more simple, repeatable habits to identify the dreams, gifts, and talents you were born with. Expand your mind and believe your dreams can become a reality. We invite you to tap into the flow of the delusional realm with us to make this world brighter. For more information on living a more fulfilling, destiny-driven life and to connect with me, visit vickiworldart.com.